Good afternoon on the east coast of the United States. I am coming back after a few days. I've been having technical problems getting here, but I see that I think I am recognizing that this is working. So thank you very much. Today's question, and people are sending in questions from my book, You Are the Universe, and Discovering Your Cosmic Self and Why It Matters. But you can send me any question, and the way to send me questions is to send an email to info@jayo.com, info @jayo.com. I do my best to answer a question every day. Your questions are placed in a queue, and then I get to them when I get to them. But as I said, I try and answer one question every day. So once again, the questions and queries and comments, if you have, of course you can share here, but also you can send me to info@jayo.com, info@jayo.com. So I'm just adjusting the light here, so I hope you don't mind. I'm just adjusting a few things here so we can have a conversation where you can see me with clarity. Can you see me with clarity and hear me? And I think we're ready to go. So today's question is from Iram. He says, "Hello, Dr. Chopra. Hello, dear Dr. Chopra. I sent a previous question to you this morning from your website. I admire your work. It is really amazing how spirituality really brings all religions together. Growing up with very devoted Muslim parents, I was blessed. Though I later learned much of the harshness of religion was man's own interpretation. I studied Rumi and fell in love. Since then, I struggled to love myself and accept myself. I was 4 years old when I came to the United States from Pakistan. It was very hard growing up here. I felt embarrassed that I was from Pakistan and a Muslim because the media portrayed them to be so evil. I wished I was born into a race which was more respected and admired. Born into a religion also, which was more respected and admired. Now in my adulthood, I realize that what my soul chose is what my soul chose. I have started meditating to try to get in touch with my inner self. I want to ask you from time to time, you mentioned Rumi as well as all of the rest of the healers do, but rarely do they ever mention Islam. Most people distance themselves from this and don't want to associate with it. When speaking, many speakers mention all the religions except Islam. It seems like it is a taboo to mention it except for Rumi. I'm just wondering how I can accept my authentic identity as a Muslim, and what are the steps to self-acceptance and self-healing. I'm happy to be able to ask you this question and understand spirituality. Okay, so let's get to the heart of this question, which is basically Iram feels alienated because he's a Muslim and he has Muslim identity. Okay, first of all, Iram, every person has to some extent felt alienated by people who strongly identify with another religion than yours, to some extent. And throughout history there have been injustices done to people who were who were not part of the religious majority in a particular geographical location, in a particular history of time, in a particular time of history. So, as you know, the Jews have been persecuted throughout the world. Recently, we saw violence from Buddhists, of all the people, in Myanmar against Rohingyas who are Muslims. In India, there have been riots between Hindus and Muslims. Hindus have killed Muslims and Muslims have killed Hindus. The Christians killed thousands, hundreds of thousands of people during the Crusades. The Nazis identified themselves as a superior race, and religion was not part of their superior identity, but they were indeed white supremacists who did a lot of ethnic cleansing. We've seen this in Bosnia, in Sarajevo, in Eastern Europe, and on throughout history. So religions have caused a lot of harm, while the religious experience has given a lot of solace to people. So let's go a little bit beyond the religious dogma and the religious institutions and look at the true religious experience. The true religious experience is actually one of transcendence, which is going beyond subject-object split. The true religious experience is also the emergence of Platonic values like truth, goodness, beauty, harmony, evolution, love, compassion, joy, equanimity, peace of mind, and ultimately the loss of the fear of death, because the transcendent aspect of existence or being, which is beyond subject-object split, is not in time. Now, that has been the true religious experience of also the founders of the great religious traditions. Whether it is Islam or Christianity, you'll find the essence of what I just said in all the teachings. In Christianity, it is the Sermon on the Mount. In Buddhism, it's the absence of the separate self. In Islam, it is charity and also sacrifice, and also doing good to others and praying and getting in touch with the sacred inside you. In every tradition, the religious experience has not been what is frequently practiced by organized religions in the name of the divine. And in every religion also there are fundamentalists, and my view of fundamentalism is that fundamentalists are basically fervent believers in every literal aspect of what they've read in their holy book, or their interpretations of the holy book, which were written by human beings who were obviously channeling a transcendent experience. But those who are fundamentalists in every religion tend to be fervent, dogmatic, literal believers in every verse, in every sentence. And they come from fear, and that is their identity. And then, of course, when that identity is threatened, they become violent. So we can see that throughout history, although a lot of good has come from the religious experience, a lot of humanitarian efforts have been expended, a lot of charity has been done, a lot of good has been done. We can also see that throughout history, religion, or let's say religious ideology, or let's say religious dogma, or fundamentalist identity in a religion has been a cause of violence and war and terrorism, and it's happening right now. So let me share with you what I think is the solution to your particular conflict at the moment in your heart, which is how can you be a good Muslim and not feel alienated because of the bad rap that Muslims are getting in the media and the press, in politics and everywhere right now in the world, because of the current climate and also the current world situation. You can't separate the two. So let me do that after 15 seconds and I'll be back. Thank you. So let me also then coming back to your query, Iram, let me also address a bigger point which is very important. The religious experience is universal, but do remember that religious institutions go back a long time, some 2,500 years or more, and some at least 1,500 years. That's true for Islam, which is going back to 700 AD. But as far as I can tell, the religious doctrines were written more or less in tribal times, and also what I would call the Bronze Age. And so we've come very far since then, but people still have tribal identities. People still have very strong religious identities. Religion, I feel, is, as described, is more or less cultural mythology, and it goes back to primitive times, Bronze Age, and now we are in a different age where we have the internet, so we can talk to each other. But we also have huge issues: social and economic injustice, racism, bigotry, hatred, prejudice, climate change, extinction of species. In fact, we are threatening our own survival now and facing possibly a mass extinction because primitive ideologies and modern capacities are very dangerous. We have primitive tribal identity, and then we have today weapons of mass destruction. We have nuclear weapons, we have cyber warfare, we have chemical warfare, we have enough weapons to kill everyone several times over in the world. And so our spiritual evolution has not caught up with our scientific progress and technology, and that creates the possibility of diabolical aspects of science to take over and result in our extinction. So what is the solution for you as a Muslim, and what is the solution for everyone who identifies themselves with a fundamentalist ideology, or everyone who identifies themselves even with organized religion? So first of all, for you as a Muslim, I think it's very important for Muslims to speak out against violence. Anytime there's a violent act committed, imagine if all the Muslims in the world, and the vast majority of Muslims are not violent, if they collectively spoke out against that violence in the world. So my plea to you, Iram, and to other Muslims is be very vocal in speaking out against violence, particularly when it comes from people who identify themselves with your religion. If they identify themselves with Islam and they're committing heinous acts and violence in the world and war and terrorism, then you as a Muslim need to speak out. And the more Muslims speak out, then the more they will not feel alienated, and the more people will rally behind them, and the bigger the collective shift will be towards eradicating fundamentalist ideologies and persecution and so on. So this is true, of course, of anyone. Buddhism is supposed to be a non-violent religion, every precept, but ultimately every religious experience is about non-violence. But now we are seeing the violence by Buddhism against Rohingyas who are Muslims and who are in the midst of a mass migration from Myanmar to Bangladesh, where they can find haven amongst other Muslims. So all Muslims, please speak out against violence perpetrated by those who identify with Islam. And this is true for every other religion. But now let's get to a bigger question. Have you ever asked yourself, who am I beyond my religious identity? Because that is an assumed identity. Have you ever asked yourself, who am I beyond my national identity? Who am I beyond my racial identity, beyond my ethnic identity, beyond my gender identity? Take away all the labels, all the definitions, all the evaluations, all the judgments. What's left? And what's left is a unique being which is also a domain of awareness which is universal. And it's a domain of awareness which has infinite love and compassion because it sees the inseparability of existence. It is a domain of existence which has infinite creativity, infinite potential, infinite access to the evolutionary impulse of the universe, and is a core being that is on a journey of evolution through cosmic time. And if you can be bold enough then to shed all these assumed identities, Muslim, Jew, Hindu, Christian, Zoroastrian, Mormon, whatever, then you are actually expressing your humanity. If you have never asked yourself, who am I beyond all these assumed identities, then your humanity is incomplete. And so we need to have a critical mass of people on the path of spiritual evolution, understanding that at the fundamental core level of existence, you are without cause, you are connected to all that is, correlated with all that is, you are inseparable from the web of existence, and you are that consciousness in which all knowing occurs. You are the knowing element in every experience, experiencing your true identity as both your limited personality and the other limited personalities that you engage with. That your true self is that which experiences itself both as the ego mind and the person that you identify with and all the others. You are the infinite consciousness in which the entire universe is co-arising and co-subsiding in an eternal now. And in that you will find solace, in that you will not feel alienated, in that you will feel independent of the good and bad opinions of others, in that you will be immune to criticism, in that you will be fearless and in that you will be the total embodiment of love, where love radiates from you like light from a bonfire, focused on none, denied to none. In that experience of wholeness, you will be holy, and you will be healed, and you will go beyond all assumed identities, including the identity of any particular religion. So this is my answer to you. Okay? All the best. Somebody said, "What's in your hand?" You mean this? This is a little bracelet. If I show you closely, it has all the colors of the human skin. So, our spirit assumes these identities, finite identities, all the colors of the human skin. And of course, these colors are limited identities. Beyond this is the entire spectrum of experience, the immeasurable potential of all that was, all that is, and all that will ever be. You are that, I am that, all this is that, and that alone is. Tattvam Asi. Till tomorrow.